Hello, hello. Hello. Good morning, and welcome to my first ever live stream. So hopefully you can hear me. Uh, if you're out there, you can leave me a note, tell me you can the sound's actually working. You know, this morning I got water, no bourbon, no coffee, no nothing. Just figured I would have water for the first ever live stream. First time I've ever done this, so I get all kinds of these little pop-up things reminding me different things that I haven't, done before. So welcome. I see I have at least one person out there, so that's great. Thanks for joining. All right, this morning, thought what we'd do is we talk a little bit about why I use Micro Four Thirds. And no, good sound's coming through. Good, that's great. Got to wear my glasses this morning. My eyes aren't working. I can't read the screen very well. So I have to use the glasses so I can see. So sorry. These are my clicks my kids make fun of, but it definitely is, good. They do work for me. So that's a good thing. Anyway, I thought we'd talk about Micro Four Thirds, but we don't have to limit it to just Micro Four Thirds. So if you got hey, Ron, thanks for joining. If you got comments, questions, concerns, criticism, outrage, it doesn't really matter. Throw it in the chat. We'll try to, chat about it, talk about it, and I love outrage in the morning. Now, why do I say that? Every time I would do a town hall in my previous life, I would always ask for comments, concerns, criticism, or outrage, and never got anything. I kept saying, look, I love outrage in the morning, so please, let's hear it. What do you got? And no one ever would throw anything out there. So if you got something... Yeah, Ron, I noticed it would be cloudy on Thursday as well. For those of you, tuning in, Ron Durant and I are planning on trying to get together this week, to this upcoming week to go out and do some photo shooting. Ron, I'm good with Thursday, even if it's cloudy, unless it's a conflict for you, but that's really what I'm thinking. By the way, just if you guys are wondering, I had my ears lowered this week, went and got my hair cut. You can see it's a little shorter than normal. I'm using my DJI Pocket 3 as a webcam. Got the idea from Ron. Thanks, Ron. All right. And using my mini mic. All right. So we can hopefully get a little bit better sound. So anyway, let's talk about, Micro Four Thirds and why I choose it. All right. Micro Four Thirds. This is my OM1 Mark II, and I've got my Panasonic Leica 8-18 on it. And this is really about the heaviest setup that I have, because believe it or not, my 50-200 doesn't really weigh any more than this lens does. I mean, it's bigger, but it doesn't really weigh any more than this lens does. So that's a great thing. But anyway, this is, why Micro Four Thirds? Why do I use it? First thing is, if you watch any of my videos, you recognize I use a lot of the computational features. Hello, great from Germany. Great to have somebody here. Hopefully my English is good enough and you'll be able to understand it. All right. I love the computational features that you get in the OM, system camera. Now I used Olympus, started back in 2014. I shot Olympus. I switched from Nikon, was shooting the Nikon D800 at that time, and I went to Micro Four Thirds. At that time, just because it was new, it was mirrorless. And I wanted to try mirrorless. I really, at that time, wasn't thinking about the size or computational features. But even early on, there were a lot of computational features that, in the early version, I had the very first OM or EM1, right? 16 megapixel, all right? And it was a great camera. And it did have some computational features, but nothing like you have today. I mean, again, in this camera today, you have built in the ability to do photo stacking. All right. You have the ability built in to be able to do ND filters. all right, and graduated ND filters. You have, the ability, and even back in the beginning, you had the ability to do this, but have, a high definition or high resolution image where you can increase the number of megapixels because it'll focus shift, or it'll shift the pixels and build up. In this case, you can do 80, 50, or I think it's 40 and 80 megapixel shots, 40 handheld, 80 if you've got it on a tripod. All right. And that gives you just more detail to pull into your image. So definitely computational features are something that I love. All right. See some comments building there in the chat. We'll come back to it in a couple minutes. All right. All right. So now computational features after that, size and cost. Now, granted, coming from a Nikon D800, or prior to this, I was using the Canon R5. All right. Coming from a full frame system to this, all right, you are saving a lot of weight, a lot of size, all right, and most importantly, money. All right, so now what do I mean by that? Excuse me, Canon R5, $3,500, and it doesn't have all the all right, R5 II now, which I think is even more. All right, it doesn't have all the computational features that this has, and it's bigger. All right, lenses, 15 to 35. I had a 15 to 35 on my 15 or my Canon R5. Now that 15 to 35 was, I think I bought it used and paid $1,900 for it. It was like $2,300 new. All right, when Canon first went to mirrorless, that's what the new RF mount would cost. This lens here, all right, brand new, basically the same as my 15 to 35. You're looking at $1,100, smaller, less than half the size, all right, and less in cost. Now I bought this one used. I think I got it for about $700. All right, so it's definitely much less expensive. All right, and then on top of that, all right, you get the next thing on my list, all right, which is weather sealing. All right, my old D800 supposedly had weather sealing. Some of my lenses had weather sealing at that time, but I remember when I was in Alaska, the gentleman I was on a photo safari with, or photo tour with, when I'm on my Alaskan cruise, we got in the rainforest and it was pouring rain. All right. And he handed me a towel and said, here, you're going to want to cover that because it's just not enough. Your weather sealing isn't enough to cover it. And he had, at that time, he was shooting an EM5. All right. The first EM5 that had come out. And that's kind of what brought me to the Olympus and Micro Four Thirds side was, he wasn't even worried about it. But for me, he gives me a towel. You better cover it. All right. And I would say the same thing for my Canon R5. All right. You would have to cover it in a heavy downpour. I don't worry about that with this stuff. I just don't. I don't care about how cold it is. Don't care about how wet it is. Anything. It's just because it just functions. All right. It has the best weather sealing that's out there by far. All right. Next thing is, and it's something I don't talk a lot about. All right, but it's definitely important. And it came up. It's interesting. It came up in one of the comments about taking my tripod. Whether I was going to take, whether I was going to take this tripod. All right. Or if I needed to take my other one, which is my Winston. All right. Comment was, why are you worried about that? You got great image stabilization. And you know what? That's true. That's absolutely true. There is no better image stabilization that I know of out there. You get 8.5 stops, of image stabilization, with the right setup. All right. On one of these cameras. Now, like here, I'm using a pan Leica lens. I'm not going to get 8.5 stops. I think the best I can do is 7. All right. But still, you get plenty of stabilization. And I've been able to handhold, 1 to 2 second images, and not have any motion blur or anything that I created because I wasn't steady. It works pretty well. But when you're doing something really long exposure, all right, you got to have a tripod for it. So when I go beyond 1 to 2 seconds, I definitely want a tripod. And to be honest, just because of my age and sometimes my shaky hands, I still use a tripod when I probably don't need to because of the image stabilization we have here. All right. But it is, without a doubt, there is no better image stabilization out there. Now, I do want to point one thing out. When I talk size, all right, this is, all right, a nice setup, right? This is about as large as I get with the exception of my 50 to 200 on it. Right? But again, I'm comparing it against an R5 or a D800. This is my Leica Q. If you notice, they're very similar in size. Now, granted, this is a fixed lens camera, 24 megapixel full frame sensor. All right. And it's 10 years old. But if you look, at least today, they're very similar in size. So there's some nice things about, for lack of a better term, point and shoot. But you won't find this kind of size when you're shooting full frame, all right? And you're in even a Canon mirrorless or a Nikon mirrorless, especially when you throw the lenses on, because the lenses are going to be twice the size. But this doesn't have anywhere near the image stabilization. Canon didn't have anywhere near the image stabilization that this has. So I really love that. And then the last thing I put on my list why I like, Micro Four Thirds is I just like shooting it. I mean, I enjoy the features. I enjoy holding the camera. It fits well in my hand. It fits better in my hand than this does. All right. It just feels natural using it from my standpoint. I just like going out, and it brings me joy every time I use it because I know I don't worry about the weather. I can pull up some of these computational features. If I want to do a higher resolution image, I have the capability of doing that. And at the same time, I'm not lugging around tons of weight. Now, an example, all right, my backpack, when I was carrying my R5, would weigh about 22 pounds, if I remember correctly, because I did weigh it. All right, same backpack, carrying 2 cameras, 3 lenses, my tripod as well, all right, and my 2 teleconverters. I'm looking at 16.7 pounds. All right, I only had one R5. All right, and I would carry, my DJI Pocket 2, or I carry a GoPro. All right, and then I had the 15 to 35, 24 to 105, and then the 70 to 200 most of the time in my bag. So I'm 22, 23 pounds versus 16 to 17 pounds. So there's definitely, a weight difference, size difference, and those things are important, but at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy shooting it, who cares? I mean, you got to enjoy it, and I do. And that's, the most important thing for any of us as photographers is if we're out there, let's make sure that we're using something that brings us joy. And if it brings us joy, that's the most important thing. All right, let's take a look here to see what we got for comments down here in the chat, because there's plenty of them and I haven't really been paying attention. Yeah, Ron, I know that's good weather for what we want to do anyway, so we should be good. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what time. Oh, Ron wanted to know what time it was over in Germany. I don't know if it's 4 p.m. Yeah, it should be about 5 to 6 hours ahead, Ron, typically. I'll be over in Ireland here at the end of March, and I believe in Ireland I'll be 5 hours ahead from here. All right. Ron would like to visit Nashville. Oh, so he would like to visit Nashville. Okay. So Nashville, the gentleman from Germany would like to visit Nashville. All right. I just came back from Nashville last weekend, weekend before last. My wife and I went down to Nashville to spend the weekend, with some friends we hadn't seen in a while. And we do that every once in a while. And if there's anybody on here that's never been to Nashville, Tennessee, and they would love to go to that area, it's beautiful. It's a great place. Yes, Broadway, for all the different bars and all different places to hang out are great. The Grand Ole Opry is great. Ryman Auditorium is great. It's not an inexpensive place to visit, but very few places on earth you can go to where you can just walk from one bar to another and have bands playing live music that will blow your mind. I mean, they're just so good. And it's absolutely, if you haven't got it on your list, put it on your list. It's a great place to go spend a few days in. You won't be unhappy, all right, if you choose to do that. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, so we got image stabilization is on par with my Panasonic Lumix. Yeah, they're close. I would agree with that. Now, I haven't shot any of the Lumix Micro Four Thirds or full frame. I'm not going to kid anybody, but I know I've used some of the Panasonic lenses. Exactly, here's one. All right, over the years, and I agree, it's fairly similar. I won't say one's better than the other. They both do great, but I think it's a big benefit to Micro Four Thirds. I think that's something that, again, as you get older, all right, that image stabilization is great. I remember, early on when I was shooting Nikon, man, if you got a lens that had VR in it, everybody thought that was the greatest thing in the world, vibration reduction. There was nothing built into the camera. It was all in the lens. And today, now you get it in the lens, you get it in the camera, and it makes a big difference. And they're pretty much all doing it, unless you get like the GFX the latest one that came out, the point and shoot competitor to this, it doesn't have built-in image stabilization. This has built-in image stabilization, but it isn't great. But again, it's 10 years old. Again, for those of you who have just joined, that's my Leica Q. All right. But the image stabilization on this is fantastic. I mean, it just, and the Lumix side of it, I mean, I don't know how to even put it in words. I mean, you got to go try it. If you get one of these things, get it in your hand, go out and just, I mean, literally stand there and set yourself your shutter speed at 2 seconds and try to take a sharp image. You'll be blown away by what you'll get. I mean, it's an amazing tool to use. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Your favorite guitar players live in Nashville? Well, there's a lot of great guitar players in Nashville. I mean, well, again, my wife and I, we were with our friends. This last trip we went, to a couple different bars somebody hadn't been to, and we went to John Bon Jovi's bar. And it was all rock and roll. And oh man, we listened to two bands. We were there for quite a while. Drinking beer and just, oh man, I'm telling you, they were amazing. Now the thing to remember if you do go there is when you see the bands playing, they're not getting paid to play. All right. They only get paid if you basically give them money, you tip them. All right. So they'll ask for tips. And if you give them a tip, you can request a song and they'll play it. And it is, it's, I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. All right. All right. All right. So we got considering buying an OM1 II. All right. What do you currently shoot? Can you throw that in the, what are you considering if you're going, to that? What are you currently shooting? Oh, there it is. All right. GH5, GH5, G9, GH7. Haven't shot those to know. I see a lot. I've watched some videos on them, and people say a lot of good things. I know they're great from a video standpoint. All right. I know they're really, really good, but I'm not going to tell you that this is any better than that, other than I like the way this fits in my hand. All right. I like the features that it has, the way the menus read and those kind of things. I can't compare it against the other to tell you if it's a good decision or a bad decision, because what you've got there are fairly similar. The G9, that's an older camera, but James Popsis used to shoot that, all the time. And he said it was his favorite camera, still does to this day. It's his favorite camera of all time because it fits so well in his hand. All right. For me, that's kind of why I like this. So certainly if I were you, all right, I would go and at least rent one, try one. If you got a friend who has one, try one first just to see if you're gained anything. Because again, you're looking at $2,000, $2,200 US, all right, to get one of these things. It's not a cheap, all right, purchase. I would recommend that you try it before you buy it, given the fact you're already shooting micro four thirds. All right. Now, so you've got, you got a 50 to 200. All right. So now 50 to 200 with this, obviously you pick up, because you got image stabilization built into the lens, plus in the camera, you're going to pick up more stops of stabilization. I don't think you get that when you take the OM lens and you pair it, all right, with one of the Lumix cameras, and vice versa. When you go with a Lumix lens onto, an OM, you still have the embody stabilization, but I think you lose the lens stabilization. So certainly, on the 50 to 200, I mean, man, what a great lens. I think everybody, hopefully you all know I've got that. I got rid of some stuff and then went with that. And it was really, Vito Vandewater from over in the Netherlands, he was testing it when it first came out, actually before it came out. And he and I were chatting back and forth about it. And he really convinced me that it was a good way to go. And it really fit in well with my style because I had used it with my previous micro four thirds kit, but not this current version, but an older version, actually from the 4/3 version. And I adapted it to micro 4/3. All right. And I loved that lens. I used it all over the world. And, the 50 to 200, this version is way better than that lens, way better in every way, shape, or form. So please, if that's on your list of things to buy, or you're thinking, again, it's a lot of money, so try it. But man, what a great lens. Only IBIS is good enough. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, again, I've used you know, everything from my Leica. I've used Canon. I've used several different Canon. I've used several different Nikon cameras. I haven't really shot any Sony, so I can't speak for Sony and I can't speak for Fuji. All right. But I can tell you that for everything that I've used, the image stabilization today and the OM1 Mark II is perfect. All right. It's absolutely great. I can't think of anything, that would be better that's out there. All right. What was the biggest challenge converting from Nikon to OM? None. The truth, none. All right. Okay. So go back, Ron, to your question. At the time I did it, I was shooting a Nikon D800, which was a 36 megapixel DSLR. Great camera. Loved it. Even if I still had it today, I mean, it's a fantastic camera. There's nothing wrong with it. All right. And I just made the decision because of the weather sealing, because of wanting to try mirrorless, because at that time mirrorless was new. I'm just going to, order myself. I'm going to get rid of my D800, all my Nikon lenses, and I'm going to order myself a few lenses and a camera. All right. And see how it goes. And with the exception of, and I don't have it out, I'm sorry, but with the exception of the focus clutch, which you don't have here on this lens, with the exception of the focus clutch, there was none. I mean, absolutely none. To me, it was just the same. My style of shooting, it wasn't like I cropped a lot, or it wasn't like I was, doing anything that was outrageous. To me, it was just going from one camera system to another and learning the menus. I mean, that's really all it was. I recognized that my files got smaller, which was great at the time. I didn't have enough computing power to really deal with the raw files for the D800. I mean, it was always slow and a pain, but there was nothing negative. There was really no big learning at all. It was, once you learn the menus and some of the buttons, like you would in any camera system, just get out there and shoot, and it worked great. The focus clutch, even to this day, on the 12 to 40, all right, trips me up. And that's me. That's not the equipment. That's just me being in a hurry, not slowing down and paying attention to what's going on. Matter of fact, I'm working on a video that I'm hoping will come out on Wednesday, where I'm literally talking about the 12 to 40, my likes and dislikes, and I talk about, the clutch, and my personal problems with it. All right. And it's not the clutch itself, because I love it. I mean, it actually is great. It gives me the ability easily to switch from manual, all right, to autofocus. Here you got a switch, all right, which most lenses have a switch. The 5200 has a switch. All right. That's what I've always been used to. All right. That manual focus clutch, it tripped me up. And I show an image. I'm going to show an image in that video that hopefully will come out on Wednesday that shows what I'm talking about. And it was, again, I was in Glacier National Park, once in a lifetime opportunity in 2 Medicine. I've shown the picture in a previous video from my cell phone that I took it right after I took the image I'll show in this video that actually was all in focus. So at least I got a picture, but it was on a cell phone, not on my camera. But what you see in that image, if you look close, and again, it'll be in the next video coming out, is that I thought I was focused on Sinopal Mountain. All right. Because the sun was coming up behind me. The mountain's all illuminated in red. All right. And you got beautiful reflection in in 2 Medicine Lake. And then you've got the 2 Medicine boat. All right. That's been there since the 30s. All right. Off to the right, and using kind of all that leading out to this picture or the image of Sinopal. And I thought I was focused on Sinopal, but unfortunately, because I was in manual focus, I was actually focused more in line with shallower depth of field. So the boat, which I think is called Sinopal, all right, shows in focus, and the mountain's a little blurry. All right, on my cell phone, that's all fine. But that's what that is, Ron. That's it. That is the only issue I've had switching from one system to the other. All right. I mean, again, going from the Canon R5 to this, just learn the menus and go. I mean, it really was nothing, maybe it's just the style of photographer that I am. All right. Where, it just doesn't, I don't know. It's not a big deal to me. All right. I can, when we're together next week, you're shooting, you've got a Z50. I'm sure I could pick up that Z50 and fall in love with it, or a Z8 or a Z9 or whatever. I'm sure I can. I mean, because when I go to camera stores, that's what I do. All right. I'll go and grab different cameras and play with it. All right, just, Hasselblad, you name it, just to see, if I'm able to use it and do something with it. And I've always been able to do it. All right. Do you shoot much wildlife or birds? I don't shoot a lot of birds. I love to shoot wildlife. To be perfectly honest, if all I could do was shoot wildlife, God, I love to do that. I mean, there's some of my favorite trips have been to Yellowstone, all right, and shooting, or in the Grand Tetons, or out in the Badlands, areas, or in Rocky Mountain National Park where there's a lot of wildlife, or even down in the Smokies. I mean, I love going out looking for the elk. Ron, before I come down to visit you, I'm going to try to run over into the Smokies and see if I can find some wildlife to shoot before I head over to Crossville. All right, because that's something I really wish that I had that option more often, because we don't have a lot of wildlife around here. Now we got a lot of little birds, and every once in a while we'll get a hawk or something, and maybe an owl, but or I should say turkeys. Jesus, yesterday in my backyard I had 4 male turkeys. I mean, my God, they were 3-4 feet tall, a couple of them. They were right up by the back window of the house. Of course, I don't have my camera or anything, and by the time I move to go do something, they run off. So, but so we don't have a lot of that stuff, or at least where I'm at, I don't have a lot of those opportunities, but I wish I did, because again, let's go back to how I got into this. All right. So everybody will hear it and know. All right. When I started shooting digital, all right, my goal was to photograph my kids playing soccer. I love sports. Want to learn how to photograph it. Now, if anything, if I could be anything, I'd love to be a professional sports photographer. I just love that stuff. All right. So I bought myself a Nikon D50 to start with, and a 70 to 300 lens, and started that way. And I progressed up. All right. All the way in Nikon D3 from a professional standpoint. And I use all the way D800 for other things. All right. But I shot sports, and I got pretty good at it. I mean, I was working for, Max Preps and doing, shooting some different high school games, but I could never get beyond it. So that's when I said, you know what? Okay, my kids are getting out of soccer, and I still want to keep doing photography. So I started switching into wildlife, landscape. I don't like doing a lot of portraits. I've done some senior portraits and things like that. But what I really like doing is just being outside. And that's what I really discovered whether I'm doing landscape, sports, or whatever, I just like being outside, in the fresh air, and then, the things that happen. Back to Yellowstone. I'll give you a story in Yellowstone. One of those things, down in Tennessee, we have black bears. Well, in Yellowstone, we have grizzly bears. All right. So I was out there by myself. This is back in, I think it was 2016, and I haven't been able to find any of the images. I wish I could. All right. But back in 2016, I had my original EM1, and I had my original 50 to 200 and a 1.4 teleconverter. All right. And I was in Yellowstone. All right. And I stopped by one of the, entrance places, and I asked the guys, where are we seeing grizzlies at today? And he gave me a couple of ideas. So one of the ideas was, up along I think it's called the Gibbon River, between Madison Junction and Mammoth. There have been several sighted. So I just figured I'd drive up along that river just to see, what I could find. And sure enough, as I'm driving along, 15, 20 minutes into the drive, I see a grizzly bear on the other side of the river. I couldn't tell for sure, but it didn't look like he was trying to eat berries or something. So I stopped, pulled off the side of the road, got out, like a total idiot. No, I don't have any bear spray or anything else. All right. I go walk over down by the side of the river. The bear's, I don't know, let's call it 50 yards away from me, if it's that far. All right. Big old male grizzly. He's sitting over there and he's eating on berries. I'm sitting there on the other side of the river, and I'm taking pictures of him. All right. And something obviously got the bear's attention. It wasn't me, thank God. All right. But it was something behind him, and I don't know what it was, but he whipped around and took off up the side of the hill. I mean, it was a big, steep incline, faster than anything I've ever seen. I mean, he went, and he was back into the woods, and whatever it was, I mean, in a blink of an eye, he was gone. I'm starting thinking, as I'm sitting there filming this or taking pictures of him, like, what if he'd have come across the river? I'd have never made it to the car. So those kind of things make you wonder sometimes, do you really want to shoot wildlife? But it's I love doing wildlife. I've always got some great stories about different experiences doing it. Many times I've found myself in a just stupid spot. All right, especially when bears are involved, even elk down in the I was trying to photograph elk down in the North Carolina side of the Smokies, and I'm shooting from behind a tree because the elks are on the outside of the forest or the woods, in the grass. And I figured, that's good. I'll be able to shoot here from behind this tree and no big deal. A couple of big bull elks decided they wanted to walk back into the woods. They came right towards me. Didn't know I was there. So I, kneeled down behind the tree, just hoping. And sure enough, they both walked right by me. They weren't 5 feet away, either side of me, and walked right by me. It's like, yeah, God, unfortunately, I have a lot of good stories, but none of them are good, safe stories. There's not one. I always have the worst luck ever, finding myself in a bad spot. All right. I've been rambling. We got any more questions? I haven't seen anything since Ron's question about wildlife. All right. Anybody else got any questions? I don't want to run the live stream forever. We've been on for a half hour, but I've got some Tai Chi I got to do with the missus after we finish up the live stream. I'm going to show my wife I picked up Tai Chi this week, and I want to give her a chance to enjoy my 30-minute workout, 27-minute workout. See if she finds it as enjoyable as I do. Yeah. So how's retirement? It's actually pretty good. When you have to decompress. And I know it was brought up to me by many. Decompress is the hardest thing to do, and it takes a while. I'm a month in, and I'm not going to kid anybody. All right. The first time I actually started to feel like a different person, or what I'm going to call better, 2 days ago. Yeah, clearly I'm beginning to move on from all that stress. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my brain. I can feel it in my attitude, my energy level, everything else. And I've been out trying to walk every single day. Like I said, I picked up Tai Chi, yeah, Tai Chi. The missus just put it on there. I can't wait. Tai Chi or bust. We'll find out if you like it or not. It's different. For those of you who haven't tried it, I recommend at least giving it a little bit of a shot. It really surprised me. I don't like lifting weights. I'll do it, but I don't like it, so I read all kinds of stuff that said, Tai Chi is great for people over in their 60s. So what the heck, I'm going to try it. So I've done it for a couple of days now, and I enjoyed it. So hopefully I can keep doing it, but we'll see. Yeah. All right. So what role has your photography hobby in the transition has it played in the transition to retirement? It helped me from the standpoint I had something to retire to. All right. I mean, everything you read says don't retire from, retire to. All right. And to me, retiring to spending more time doing this, all right, is a good thing, because when I'm out, again, like I said earlier, I like to be outside. All right. I like to be out in the outdoors. I like to, for whatever reason, it just brings me calm. All right. So when I'm outside and I've got, my camera in my hand, it's like everything else in the world just kind of disappears. I don't know why. I can't say that why, but it just does. And ever since I've been, doing photography, go way back. I mean, it's always the same way. It's that same feeling. All right. It's helped me with the transition from the standpoint, retire to. All right, retire to something, not away from something. And again, I've talked about it in many videos, and I spent 40 years in an incredibly high stress environment. All right, and at least for me, a high stress environment. And I think it's that way really for everybody. And walking away from it, I really expected it to be very difficult for me. Because I kind of like with my photography, when I get into something, I get zoned in on it. I forget to check the focus clutch. when I get zoned in on what I'm working on and where I need to go, or as I always called it, the motorboat theory of management, I'm driving the boat because I'm the guy in charge. So wherever I take the boat, everyone in the boat either stays on board and follows me, or they fall off and we try to pull them back. And if they can't, then obviously they leave. I find that I thought for sure I was going to have a hard time walking away from that. All right. And it's not been easy, but this has helped. Now, here's the other thing. This last week, I also started substitute teaching here for the local school district. Did a couple days of substitute teaching, and my wife is on, so she could comment about some of the things, that I've said. But I mean, it's interesting. It actually, you walk into something, you have no idea what it is. You don't know what you're doing. You've never done it. You come from a world where you know everything. You feel like you know everything. You're confident, and you go into a world where you're totally not confident. Wow. I mean, what a change that is, and how you have to take it on. And I actually found that, I enjoyed that part of it because it was something new and it brought me, focus somewhere else as opposed to thinking about what I used to do. Now all of a sudden, how do I learn this and how do I become good at this? What the hell is Canvas? All these other terms they have, and how do I know what that is? How do I know, how to answer questions? How do I know what these kids are going to want? Every school seems to have a different set of rules for things. You got to learn those rules. I mean, it's all new to me and it's great. I mean, it's absolutely great because it takes the focus away from something and brings it onto something new, and it gives me a new passion, something new to learn. All right. And by the way, Ron, back to your earlier question, how hard is the transition? Maybe that's the answer. All right. Why was it easy for me to go from one thing to another? Because I had to learn. I didn't know. All right. I had to learn. Maybe that is the answer. That's a great question. Will I enjoy retirement? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm decompressing more and more every day and finding more and more joy in other things. And it really is, it's a good thing. All right. Again, for those of you who are there, congratulations. For you, those of you who are not there, I think my advice would be is don't wait too long. And I think my video tomorrow I think it's not tomorrow, it comes out in another week. All right. On my Walking into Retirement channel talks about that. All right. About, waiting and what's the right time and, when should you do things? And for me, I always envisioned working to 65. And this stuff here would wait till after, instead I, made the decision to go early, 61, but retire to this sooner. And I should have done it 6 months ago. Okay. I should have done it 6 months ago. I shouldn't have waited even that long. And that would be my words to each and every one of you is don't wait. If you can do it, do it. Should I be worried about the money? Yeah, we all should be worried about it. But at the end of the day, life's too damn short. My wife who's on here, I mentioned in one of my upcoming videos, one of the things that helped, we literally were at a memorial for someone she worked with who never got to retire. Just never did, because, she found out she had cancer and then she passed away pretty quickly. So she never got a chance to really do anything or enjoy anything, much like my wife's mom at age 54, passed away from cancer, much like my father, who died at age 66, and has spent several years, of, declining health because of diabetes and his problems with his kidneys and problems, all right, with his heart. He couldn't do things. So he never got to enjoy anything. I'm blessed that I can enjoy and I can get out and go do things at this point. I've got my health at this point to be able to do it, and I want to do it. All right. And I've been blessed already to go see many parts of the world. Before I got on here, my wife and I are trying to debate, what do we do this summer? What do we do this summer? Where are we going to go? What are we going to do with our free time? And, because she works for a local school district too. So when she's, when the school year is over, she's got a couple months, we could go do anything. And we got to figure out, this is new to us. How do we go do that? So, all right, I'm rambling. All right, smartest move you made. Retirement will be a lot of fun. Speaking from experience. Yeah, Ron, you keep saying that. I can't wait to have some conversations about it this week. I'm looking forward to that. Next comment here. I feel fine with a completely different part-time job. The next day, I retired a year and a half ago. Yep. My wife's idea was, try substitute teaching. Give yourself something to do. You can choose your own schedule. So last week, 2 days. I've got 2 days scheduled this coming week, Monday and Tuesday. All right. So I get to choose the days I want to do it, which is great. And so Monday and Tuesday, I'll be at another high school, in our school district, substituting there. And it's, we'll see how I feel, a week from now, if I'm enjoying it as much as I am right now. But, time will tell. All right. Any other questions on there? Because I don't want to ramble anymore. I hate rambling. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed this. All right. All right. Yeah, I'll see you on Thursday, Ron. Looking forward to it. We'll start early. Yeah, I'll send you a text message, because definitely want to try to get out by sunrise. All right. Definitely want to get out for sunrise, get the best light. All right. I don't want to ramble. I just want to say thanks for everybody tuning in. I was afraid I wouldn't have anybody. It's nice to have, some folks chime in, throw out some comments. Greatly appreciated. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you very much. All right. Till we see you again, stay safe.